Welcome to Black Cube Productions 2022. I'm your host, Roger Cluton, and today I want to share with you a deeply personal story that has shaped my understanding of life, death, and the mysteries that connect us all. Before we begin, if you find value in what you hear today, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support means everything to this show.
Growing up, I had an unusual relationship with my grandmother. I didn't call her grandma or nana like most kids. I called her mom. She was the center of my world, the person I was closest to in my entire family. And it was in her living room, surrounded by the warm glow of old lamps and the scent of her cooking, that I first heard the stories about Blaine Cluton. Blaine was my uncle, though I'd never met him. He had died long before I was born. But the family would gather, and the stories would flow. Stories of a boy who was curious, mischievous, and deeply loved. One story in particular seemed to capture everyone's attention, told by my uncle who had been Blaine's childhood companion.
When my uncle and Blaine were just 4 and 5 years old, they decided to take a shortcut through a farmer's field in Bismarck, North Dakota. What they didn't know was that this particular farmer didn't take kindly to trespassers. As they ran across his property, the farmer came out with his shotgun and fired rock salt at them.
Terrified, the two boys ran as fast as their little legs could carry them. They dove under a barbed wire fence, landing in a muddy irrigation ditch. Covered head to toe in thick black mud, they finally made it home. But their adventure wasn't over. Their mother took one look at them and reached for the belt. Both boys got a spanking they'd never forget.
I was maybe 6 years old when I heard this story for the first time, and as my uncle finished telling it, something strange happened. I looked up at the room full of adults and said, with complete certainty, "I remember that day." The room went silent. My uncle stared at me, baffled. "What do you mean you remember that day, Roger? You weren't even born yet."
But I did remember, and I proceeded to tell them the entire story, including details my uncle hadn't mentioned. I told them about how the mud felt cold and slimy against our skin. I told them about how scared we were when we heard the shotgun. And I told them about the spanking, how it stung and how we both cried afterward.
My uncle was speechless. How could I know these details? How could I remember something that happened before I existed?
This wasn't an isolated incident. Throughout my childhood, I had what I came to call recall episodes. Fractured memories that didn't belong to me, yet felt as real as my own experiences. Moments of déjà vu so intense they would stop me in my tracks. Memories of places I'd never been, people I'd never met, experiences I'd never had.
But it wasn't until I was older that the complete picture emerged. One day, like a dam bursting, I experienced total recall. I remembered dying as Blaine Emery Cluton at the age of 9 from cancer. I remembered the hospital room, the pain, the fear. And then I remembered what came after.
I found myself standing at what I can only describe as a lookout point. It wasn't a physical place, but rather a space between worlds, between life and whatever comes next. There was a presence there, a male voice, gentle but firm. He told me I didn't have to go back. The pain was over. I could rest now.
But I stood there, arms crossed, angry and defiant. I was just a 9-year-old boy, but I knew with absolute certainty that I had to go back. My family would fall apart without me. They needed me. I couldn't leave them.
For what felt like 10 to 20 minutes, I argued with this voice. I pleaded, I demanded, I insisted that I must return. The voice was patient, but seemed amused by my determination.
"You really want to go back?" it asked. "Yes," I said without hesitation. The voice laughed again, and then everything changed.
I was sent back, but not in the way I expected. I was reborn as my sister's son.
I came back as my own nephew, back into the same family I had refused to leave. The boy who had died as Blaine Cluten was now living as Roger Cluten.
For years, I carried this knowledge alone. How do you tell someone that you're the reincarnation of their dead brother? How do you explain memories that shouldn't exist? But as my grandmother grew older, I knew I had to tell her the truth.
I sat her down one afternoon and told her everything. I told her I was Blaine. She was skeptical, understandably so. For hours, I tried to convince her, sharing memory after memory, detail after detail that only Blaine would know.
Finally, I told her something that I knew would prove it beyond any doubt. I told her what she had said to me the night I died in the hospital as Blaine. "You were very tired from working," I said. "You told me you loved me and that you would be back first thing in the morning before work."
The color drained from her face. She stared at me in total shock. "That is exactly what I said," she whispered. "Those were my exact words."
In that moment, everything changed between us. She knew, and I knew that she knew. The grandmother I had always called Mom understood why our bond had always felt so deep, so unbreakable. I wasn't just her grandson. I was her son, returned to her in a way that defied all logic and explanation. I share this story not to convince you of anything, but to open a door to possibilities we might not normally consider. What if death isn't the end? What if love is so powerful that it can transcend the boundaries between life and death? What if the connections we form with others are so strong that not even death can break them? I don't have all the answers. I'm not sure anyone does. But I know what I experienced, and I know what I remember. And sometimes that's enough. Thank you for listening to this deeply personal story. If it resonated with you in any way, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Black Cube Productions 2022. Your support helps me continue to explore the mysteries that surround us all. Until next time, this is Roger Cluten, reminding you that sometimes the most extraordinary truths are hidden in the most ordinary moments.